Mr. Speaker, I rise to contribute to Budget 2022. But I want to first thank the staff of the Ministry of Finance who would have worked tirelessly to ensure the completion of this budget document. And I say a special thank you, Mr. Speaker, because I recognize their value. Sir, I want to look at a few comments made by honorable members of the other side. Honorable Fazil Jafrali spoke of Guyana being the breadbasket of the Caribbean. I dare say, Mr. Speaker, it was the PPPC who destroyed that legacy built by Lyndon Forbes, Samson Burnham, the founder of the PNC, a visionary. During their 23 years in government and carried this country into an impoverished state. In fact, they are referred to as Punish Poor People Party. Mr. Speaker, it was a member of the PPPC who once said he wished there's an outbreak in Georgetown, while Georgetown has been referred to as the garbage city. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Kwame McCoy spoke of call centers being closed in Region 10, but I wish to remind the Honorable member it was the PPPC that closed Bertram Collins College. It was the PPPC that withdrew support from night schools. It was the PPPC, sir, that cut subvention from other institutions. Yes, it was the PPPC. As a matter of fact, Chair, 30 community health workers were dismissed from Region 4. And here they come, crying foul as if they are the innocent ones. Yes, look in the mirror. The Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Speaker, took pain to outline to us communities that receive flood relief. But what he did not disclose was the money received by one person of those communities as against others of the same community and other communities. Sir, I wonder if the criteria used to provide those flood reliefs are the same criteria used that provided $250,000 to the sugar workers, which was said here, the criteria then is care, compassion, and love. What is even more worrying, sir, the Honorable Minister is responsible for Gaisuko, and he said little or nothing about that sector during its 30 minutes deliberation. And I'm quite certain, sir, before the end of this year, the Honorable Member will come once again asking for increase for Gaisuko, like was done in the previous years. But you know, Mr. Speaker, I will not allow myself to be burdened by the fallacies of those who seek to portray themselves as apostles and pastors. Dream on. Mr. Speaker, I now turn my attention to the budget debate, which was presented to this noble house by the senior minister within the office of the president with responsibility for finance on January 26, 2022. Mr. Speaker, this budget was presented under the theme steadfast against all challenges, resolute in building our One Guyana. I do believe it is not by accident this theme was chosen, but rather, Mr. Speaker, it is the intent of the PPPC to continue along the path of providing chicken feed and peanut to our working class people in this country. The truth of the matter, Mr. Speaker, men and women in uniform, teachers, nurses, doctors, sweeper cleaners, etc., waited anxiously to see what's in the budget for them. But sad to say, an uncaring group of people once again shattered their hopes. The budget has not only added frustration and depression to our nation, but it further seeks to maintain the economic hardship and widen the gap between the super rich and filthy poor. Mr. Speaker, I try to dissect phrases. I recognize the word steadfast, and I also realize it to be loyal, committed, devoted, dedicated, and even dependable. What the senior minister and the installed PPPC has said to the Guyanese people in this 2022 budget hold a strain. The worst is yet to come. Hakuna Matata. Yes, Mr. Speaker, disrespectful and discriminatory to the working class of people in this country. Against all challenges, 3 budgets, one that speaks to economic dynamism, another building our One Guyana. In the rise of COVID, nothing to ease the economic hardship and other social issues brought to bear. In fact, all the PPPC government is concerned about is siphoning off the patrimony of this country to their friends and supporters, while the small man, yes, the real man, continues to see hopelessness and despair. Is this the oneness and One Guyana of which we speak? Certainly not. Your attitude says the direct opposite. One would have thought, Mr. Speaker, that the feedback after 18 months, this budget would have been people-centered. Mr. Speaker, the phrase One Guyana is being used by all the members of the other side. But it's worrying to see how this One Guyana is being realized. When there's the continuing dictatorial and discriminatory practices of senior government officials and their cronies being used to control every aspect which lends itself to lifting all Guyanese out of poverty. Mr. Speaker, I now turn my attention to region number 4. The Honorable Member Vince Roy Jordan would have used a broad brush as he outlined to us what has happened in all the regions of Guyana. And so I will focus my attention on some specific issues. It's a travesty, sir, to see how the One Guyana is demonstrated for this region when the elected officials by the people and for the people were locked out of a process which determined what is in the budget for them. But let me tell you, sir, the Honorable Nigel Dharamlal, Minister of Local Government and Regional Development, was warned in this very house to be mindful of the legacy he will leave behind, and not to return this country to a green and red state. But tell you what, the same thing has continued. Mr. Speaker, I want to look at a term that would have been used some time back and coin it to modern day language. You can take a pig out of the mud, dress it up in Gucci, drove it in Lamborghini to the most exotic places, provided with the most expensive meals and all of that. But say what? That pig will drive that vehicle down in the mud, because that is what the pig is accustomed to. The pig will remain a pig. Whether you give it lipstick or you give it lip gloss, it will remain a pig. That's the characteristics of pigs. Sir, I am not surprised by the action portrayed by the region, for the region and municipality that is not controlled by the PPPC. These regions are being discriminated and marginalized against. It's a shame to know the most populated region is seen as insignificant to the people who are asking us to be resolute in building One Guyana. Sir, the office of the regional chairman and the mayor of Georgetown continue to be disrespected, even though they continuously ask to be allowed to do their job without interference. Worst, Mr. Speaker, the regional chairman office of region number 4, the largest region, was provided with least funding, with this largest budget that is being touted in an oil booming economy. As a matter of fact, what was received by Region 4 is a decrease from last year and the other years. Add to that, Mr. Speaker, $3 million were given as subvention to the Neighborhood Democratic Council. When the coalition took government in 2015, these subventions were increased from $3 million to $5 million. Sir, the management of that sum has now been taken away from the RDC and placed back in the hands of the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, who dictate how that money is to be spent. Is this how we promote One Guyana? When we want to manage and control things from the center, Mr. Speaker, I've listened to councillors of the NDCs along the East Coast and East Bank corridors, and stories given to you are the same. They said, and I quote, "We cannot do what we have to do for the citizens because we are controlled and confined to what the office of the minister wants us to do." End of quote. Sir, those subvention was used for capital works, bridges, patching of roads, even purchasing of machinery, tractor, trailer, etc. But here we have that daddy who is saying to the elected officials they must purchase street lights and or aggregate, and also dictate how much of that money is to be spent on what? Like my colleague, Honorable Mike Paul said, the light on my phone is brighter than those $35,000 light. Mr. Speaker, I now turn my attention to healthcare services.
Honourable Member, before you can turn your attention there, we will need an extension.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the honourable member be given 5 minutes to conclude.
Thank you, Honourable Member. You may proceed to conclude.
I now turn my attention to healthcare services, Mr. Speaker. These services were boosted under the APNU AFC. Mr. Speaker, in the rise of COVID, we recognize that there's a couple of things need to be changed. Mr. Speaker, I would have visited with Tamara, who would have gone to Paradise testing site to be tested. Mr. Chair, Tamara said to me she got there at 7:30, waited on 9:30 for services to be provided to her. 11 o'clock, Mr. Chair, Tamara was still there waiting. Mr. Chair, because of time constraint, and I only have 5 minutes at hand, I wish to point to another area. I stopped to grab a couple of bags of food for my dogs. There, Mr. Speaker, I interacted with the saleswoman who told me her name was Sunita. Sunita had 3 children there by her side. As the conversation ensued, I learned that Miss Sunita was also employed as a sweeper cleaner. She said as a single parent, in order to be able to send her children to school and adequately provide for them, she had to revert to alternative means of sustenance. This, sir, moved me, and I salute her with both hands. A strong woman, a mother who is willing to give her best to her children in spite of the economic hardship being faced. I heard of the Honorable Zulfikar Mustafa rant and rave about dog food sellers. May I remind him, it was Sunita who said to me she preferred to sell dog food rather than to be selling cocaine and her name go down in the statistics of Guyana. As a matter of fact, she also said to me she applied for public assistance since January of 2021, and to date she has not received any feedback. Is this the One Guyana we talk about? As I conclude, Mr. Speaker, I bring to you real experiences faced by citizens of this land, which has resulted from the economic hardship that brought to bear. And I say to you, sir, because of this and other reasons, time did not permit me to give you all the facts I have here. And so, sir, I will not support this budget since it did not prepare and cater for the real issues and needs of the small man. I thank you.